A couple of weeks ago, I made a video on why I think Destiny 2 is an extremely special game. I want to clarify from the off that I still believe that, but it feels like every few weeks now there's a huge discussion on the state of Destiny. Is it dying? Are players leaving? Have seasons become stagnant? The instability of servers and technical issues, store prices, PvP maps and attention, the list goes on and on and on and on. Today, I want to look at Destiny 2 in a wider view. We're in an era of live service games, where games are launching and servers are being shut off mere months later. There's a reason Sony bought Bungie for a couple of billion quid. There's a reason Sony is having Bungie order each of their live service games. Bungie knows their shit. So, to start with, what needs to be said, because still to this day, a lot of people do not understand that making video games is hard. And do you know what's even harder? Making video games that are live service to keep people engaged for hours, days, months, and now years. From the off, the laziest possible critique you can level at a game is that the developers are lazy. It is nonsense. I guarantee that the people who develop this game care just as much about Destiny 2 as you do. This is not me defending Bungie for the mistakes that it has made in the past or is currently making. But it has to be said, they are not lazy. If you're going to be critical of Bungie and Destiny, be fair about it and rational. And if you think that abusing the employees of Bungie is also fair, take a look at yourself. I see it almost daily, and enough is enough. It is time to do better. This video is not to be a Bungie shill, it's to take a step back, look at the wider Destiny issues as a whole, and have a fair, balanced take on them. I gain nothing from doing this apart from angry comments. So, with those disclaimers out of the way, there's a reason that we're coming up on the 10th year of Destiny. We've still not seen a Destiny killer. Yeah, the game could do with some competition, but I beg you to ask game developers what their opinions are on making a video game, and 6 years later, see this kind of player base with this level of engagement. Thousands of hours of playtime later, people are still engaged, still playing. That isn't easy. Alright? With that out of the way, let's dive into my take on Destiny 2's problems. I'm not going to cover every nook and cranny of the game, because if I did, by the time this video hit, I'd be starting a State of Destiny 3 video. I want this video to be a case of what is fair criticism from my point of view, which you're free to disagree with, even though you probably hit that dislike button as soon as you saw the title. So, let's begin with how people begin. My biggest complaint with Destiny right now is the new player experience. We have no Red War campaign, no Forsaken campaign, and so much content lost to the archives. Yeah, it's great that no more is going to be sunset going forward, but these are the fundamentals of what got so many players into Destiny 2 to begin with, and to have no option to play through them for the first time, and to understand the grander Destiny 2 story, it's such a shame to me, it really is. Avengers Infinity War and Endgame would not hit the same way if you didn't watch the original Avengers. Now that's just one part of it. I understand that Destiny 2 is huge and there are massive technical constraints as to why they can't just keep everything in the game. But my main problem is how convoluted the new player experience is in terms of what to buy. Truth is, the free to play experience sucks. You get minimal stuff, yeah, maybe a raid or dungeon, but if you're a new player, that's not what's going to get you into the game straight off the bat. It's not what's going to teach you. The best content is locked behind the various expansions, but when you open up that store page on Steam, as someone new, how the fuck are you meant to know what to buy? Why is there still even a Forsaken pack? Forsaken is gone. If I look at the store page, there's 4 expansions, 1 expansion pack, an expansion with an annual pass, a 30th anniversary pack, a Season of the Deep bundle, an Armory collection which is the Forsaken and the 30th anniversary, a Legacy collection and a Silver bundle. 13 different options to buy. Why? Just why? Make it simple. Collate Forsaken, Shadowkeep, 30th anniversary, Beyond Light and Witch Queen into one package called the New Player Experience or something like that. Keep the 2 Beyond Light packages for Beyond Light and the annual pass one and be done with that. Stop selling every expansion alongside bundles. A new player is not going to have a clue what they are purchasing without a helping hand from someone who already plays or a lot of research. Maybe there are plans to simplify it for the final shape or post-final shape, but the final shape is supposed to be its endgame moment. They should want as many people to experience that as possible, but in its current state, between the awful new player onboarding and the convoluted purchasing experience, I can't recommend Destiny 2 to anyone until probably after the final shape. There's the common sentiment that Destiny 2 is not free to play, but more free to try, and this is one that I would agree with, and I think a lot of that comes down to it once being a full price game and then switching to free to play. Guardian Ranks has done little to help with this. The basic tutorials are too basic, and the content within the free to play stuff would put me to sleep as a new player. I don't think there'll be a good jumping on point for Destiny until after the saga concludes, and that's such a shame, it really is. Alright, let's talk microtransactions. Asdacross just put out a huge video which has gone viral and lots of people are reacting to. Parts of the stuff I agree with, others I don't. I don't think the microtransaction system in this game is as horrifying as people make it out to be, but I certainly don't think it's good or pro-consumer. I think microtransactions as a whole is a wider industry problem, particularly cosmetics. I mean, look at the recently released Diablo. You're talking 25 quid for an armor set for one class. Halo Infinite charging for armor coatings across all its armor cores. Avengers at the time was 16 quid a skin. Overwatch, Apex, all of these games. But they are priced that way for a reason, and one reason alone. People buy them. If they didn't, they wouldn't sell them for that price. I guarantee each company has spent so much money on finding out the perfect price point that they can get away with. So, look, I don't like it, but the war against microtransactions was lost years ago, not just in Destiny, in video games. What I don't particularly like though is how in your face the Eververse is becoming. Bright engrams or Eververse engrams are essentially useless, they're just becoming a quick way to get you to the store. Nor am I a fan of the collaborations becoming more expensive than usual armor sets. On top of the tens of emotes, ghost projections, weapon and armor ornaments, and now even shaders being locked behind bundles. Add to that, you've got the event cards for each season, like the Dawning or Festival of the Lost, which lock shaders and other cool items behind paid event cards. It just feels like a little bit too much, even for someone like me, who spent way more money than I'd like to admit on this game, who's bought ornaments, armor, and the odd emote to the point where it's so much that it's actually putting me off buying anything else now. It should be noted that lots of items eventually can be purchased for Bright Dust, which is a big change from other games' microtransactions that can only ever be bought for money. So I do commend them for that, but I just wish there was a better balance. Business is going to be business at the end of the day. Again, I don't think it's awful, nor is there any pay to win, but the amount of different revenue streams is becoming to feel a little bit gross to me, and I think they should tone it down a little bit because unlike other free-to-play games, if you want all the actual content year on year, you're still paying 80 quid a year. That adds up fast with the store items. Again, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, and the amount of cosmetics and content per season pass or expansion is huge, and I think it's actually really fair value for those. But again, it's almost like Bungie is going to Bungie because they increase the price of the season pass, but you can no longer buy that amount of silver, so you're always buying a little bit more. And then you've got dungeons being sold for dungeon keys, and the dungeons, and for me, they're intrinsically linked to the season. They should become a part of the season pass itself now. It just feels a little bit grim, despite how good this content actually can be. Again, the same with the new player experience. I just wish it was more streamlined and easy, but this is a wider video game issue. One that I'd love to be resolved, but if you think the microtransactions are bad here, let me tell you about FIFA Ultimate Team. Because that right there, you have no idea how easy we have it in this video game. Again, I disagree with the Asdacross's elements on pay to win. I don't think that applies here. I cannot see anybody trying to do that just to grind out a gun. I don't think any gun is worthwhile doing that either. Anyway, moving on to seasons themselves. Last year, there was this monumental moment of season fatigue, where the entire community almost let out like one collective sigh. Every season had begun to feel the same or similar, and I felt it. Bungie say they heard the feedback loud and clear, but they won't be able to act on it until really this season that's going on and the following ones coming on, because of the production pipelines, which is more than fair. Time-gated story and dialogue, monotonous upgrades for decoding or season activities, similar exotic quest timelines, events, it just became stale. I actually think Season of the Deep has been pretty good so far. The story just wrapped up in a really exciting way, which we all knew was probably coming, but the tease for it still landed hard, and last week's cutscene was probably the biggest in Destiny history. Plus, we got no time-gated upgrades, which is great. Deep dives are one of the best 3-man activities in Destiny history for me. The roguelite elements have been so fun, though only if your fire team are clever enough to know what you're doing or know about it. Salvage, the 6-man activity, that's awful, I won't lie. This season was the beginning of more experimental changes, and next season is due to continue that. Some of this will deliver, some of it won't, but I think it's a positive direction for seasons. Seasons on the whole though, I do sympathise with Bungie. Content to be delivered every 3 months between loot, sandboxes, season passes, storytelling, a dungeon or a prize raid, and with it a whole new chase and expectations. Again, I'd love to see more of what we got here with deep dives, picking up buffs, choosing to have harder experience with better loot. These were great design decisions that felt rewarding and fresh. I think the overall storytelling outside of last season and Lightfall has been exceptional in terms of the quality of writing and performances alongside the stakes and what is coming up to the culmination of this saga. I expect Season 22 and 23 to be big seasons, leading us into the final shape, and I hope we get more excellently designed activities like deep dives and no more seasonal vendor upgrades. Season of the Deep was a step in the right direction so far. What I've really also enjoyed is the seasonal themes. Deep being underwater and sea-based, we had the pirate season, Seraph was also a big highlight for me. If there was one particular thing I'd like to change, it's the way the story's done. I understand that this has to be partially time-gated to give people a reason to keep coming back week on week, but I wish it was told in more unique ways than report to Hollow Projector, conversation, run seasonal activity, or small mission, conversation, okay, see you next week. Some of it this season, it was different. I'm not sure it was a good different though. Destiny 2 has been out for nearly 6 years. To consistently make content that is fresh, rewarding, engaging and sustainable is hard. There really is not many games on the market that can even boast this at all, not even to mention the exceedingly high player count that Destiny 2 maintains. It's inevitable that it's now being stacked up against Diablo 4 as it's a looter live service game. There's the feeling that Diablo loot is way more interesting, for example, but yeah, I'd hope so. I watch a lot of Paul Tassi, who is excellent, and he's doing a little mini comparison series at the moment, and he believes that the loot in Diablo is better and more interesting, especially when it comes to the armor, which I do agree with. But Diablo 4 is a month old. If the loot chase in that game wasn't more exciting than Destiny 2, I would be terrified for Diablo. Destiny is a shooter first, and there is only so much you can do after 6 years of the same game to keep guns fresh and exciting loot-wise without breaking the entire sandbox. The solution would be to sunset the items and bring them back, like a yearly COD installment where you lose all your progress, start from scratch. So yeah, of course Diablo's loot chase is fresh. Yet, already in Diablo, you're seeing people have an issue with the game, which, you know, things are being addressed, but look already at the sentiment of eternal characters and seasonal characters. There's no such thing as a perfect game. Live service games are hard to make because you can't please everybody. For example, I'm not a PvP player, but wow is the PvP situation bad. I assume that all PvP resources are now solely focused on Marathon, with a very small team on Destiny still. I think the community is bang on in terms of how they feel towards PvP right now. And they feel left out in the cold, and this is one thing that I don't like seeing, I really don't. I wish there was a better solution, I don't think there's going to be one. The lack of support again for all of the core playlists in the game is a big shame. Nightfalls still aren't that interesting, nor are Strikes, but these modes, these missions, they've been around for years now. How do you keep making them worthwhile and interesting and rewarding I'd love it to be better, but I don't actually have a solution. The game has grown to be so big that, admittedly, some things have to be left behind. Also, it has to be said, the technical state of the game recently has become extremely unreliable, particularly on reset. I have no idea how game engines work, servers, server maintenance, any of that. I imagine the game has grown so big that the technical maintenance of the game is tougher to hold together. Again, I sympathise, but as the player, we need Bungie to do better. The amount of outages and downtime and issues in the past few seasons has grown massively. Just as I started making this video, of course, Bungie dropped a load of information in the TWAB. Like I've said in this video and will continue to say so, just because Bungie doesn't always comment on something straight away, doesn't mean they aren't aware or is being investigated or looked at. I love seeing this level of communication, and again, it highlights the fact that they know they have issues. I'm not saying that makes it okay, but you have to give kudos for the level of transparency in this week's TWAB, or TWID. They could just say, we hear you, but we got the nitty gritty of it, and that deserves applauding. Hopefully, there's a resolution in sight, and going through it, I don't know what any of it means, but good job, Bungie. There's a general sentiment that Bungie has stopped listening to the community as a whole, but had Bungie stopped listening to the community, Destiny 2 won't even be here still. There's only so much they can share, and the shit show that Twitter can be in regards to abuse and harassment can be a reason as to why sometimes they simply don't. Look, it's unacceptable about the PvP situation being left out in the cold, that the new player onboarding is shite, the purchasing options of the DLC is convoluted, the loot chase has become uninteresting, the core playlists are lacking, and Lightfall from a narrative perspective was a disaster. After Lightfall, I actually took a big break until Seasons of the Deep. If you're feeling burnt out on Destiny 2, take a break. We are in a year of fantastic video games that, if everything lands as expected, might be the greatest year in video games for a long time. So good that if the fun has stopped, go and play Zelda, or Jedi Survivor, or Final Fantasy, or RE4 Remake, or Hi-Fi Rush, or any of the other insanely good video games that have dropped this year. Seasons and Destiny are at a point where I'm pretty set on my loot now. I do the story, I do a bit of the seasonal chase, but that's around it, and I finish off the season pass. That's okay. I still care about this game, and I still enjoy this game, and I'm different to the next person. Maybe you only want to play Destiny. There's a reason we're entering the end game of Destiny 2 with the final shape. I think Bungie are well aware that a circuit breaker is needed and necessary. We've got the big showcase coming up in August where we're due to see the final shape and what comes after that. This should be, and to me is, exciting. I want to be clear. I play Destiny 2 because I really enjoy playing Destiny 2, and when I don't, I stop and take a break. Bungie said a long time ago they would be scared if people felt apathetic about the game. I think there is constant discourse because people still really care about this game. But caring is not equal to abuse or hate. It's true that hate-induced and negative takes on things, they drive engagement. I don't want to be that guy. I have my issues and I've highlighted them here. But this game is still so fantastic to me. I'll leave a link in the description for why I think this video game is so special, a video I made a couple of weeks back. There's a reason we always come back. It is that good. Destiny 2 is coming towards the end of its Light and Darkness saga, a humongous achievement, not really seen in video games like this outside of a select few. Yeah, we see a couple of games, but rarely do we see a game story told consistently across 10 years. The game has issues that deserve feedback and criticism, but we can do better and make it fair criticism. Not that they're just being lazy or they don't care about the game. The game, it isn't perfect, and there are things it needs to sort out and prioritise. But can we all just calm down a bit with the constant negative attitudes? If you're fed up, take a break, it'll do you good. I wish there was just more of a positive sentiment in the community because it's so big, and yet 99% of the takes I hear are negative. But yet we all keep playing, so there's a reason for that. And it is because we do enjoy this game. Bungie don't always get things right, but when they do, I'd like to see the praise be just as high as when they get things wrong. if you are fed up, just take a break. Video games,
so
they're there to be fun, on your own or with friends. And whilst you can moan and groan, and rightly so at times, remember why you're playing in the first place.
Vanquish nightmares.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting that like button. It helps me out massively. I'd really appreciate it. Truth is, if you enjoyed talking all things video games and a big fan of the worlds that Bungie create, you're in the right place. Go ahead and subscribe. I've got you covered. Have a terrific day. I'll catch you in the next one. Eyes up, Guardians.